Hello and welcome to October in Charlotte, North Carolina. Isn't your day just full of beachwear and flip-flops? Because it is October 31st and I think today's high is like 79 degrees. I'm your host, TJ, and this is Uncommon. Thanks for joining us. I thought I'd have a little fun with the outfit, the Hawaiian shirt. It feels like it is more summer spring or spring summer than anything close to fall. But if you wait 24 hours, I think tomorrow's high is like 60 with a low of like 35. So I feel like every week I give you an update on the weather, whether you want it or not. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Today we are talking about uncommon dads, and I hope I'm catching you at a good time. I know this catches some of you in the middle of the day, some on your lunch break, anything in between. So this is for you to watch at a later date if you are busy in the day. Once again, I'm TJ, and this is Uncommon Live. We rotate through our topics of husbands, dads, and leaders, and on a weekly basis. I think I have dialed in to Thursday at 2 o'clock. Looks like it's going to be the consistent time for me to do an Uncommon Live. So I've been trying to dial that in over the last month or two, and so that you can just plan on when I come on board and kind of communicate with me or take part in this, or at least it'll be up and viewable for Thursday afternoon. So again, thank you for joining us. Today's topic, again, is around uncommon dads, and the title of it is Sex, Drugs, and Kanye West. So when I was trying to develop something for this week, obviously we've all heard of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but Kanye is such in the news this week. I wanted to touch on a few things around that. Probably not on what you think I am going to be talking about, but we'll cover that later on in the session. Just an update, we are making great progress on our membership program. We are down to 43 members away from hitting our goal for the end of the year. Our membership program is a way for us to, for some revenue to help sustain the ministry. It is $25 a year, and we are excited that we are launching a few things very soon with our membership program, and I think you're going to want to be on board for that launch. We're going to be updating this as we go throughout the year like we have been, but we have some really good things coming. I am very, very excited. I was working on some things today for that. So you're going to want to be part of that program before, because there are some bells and whistles that you need to get in place for the new functionality that is ready to roll out. If you're already a member, just hang on. Things are going to get even better. We're going to get a few things passed out through email in the next couple of weeks, and so be on the lookout for that. Our first topic should get your attention. We're talking about sex. Yes, sex. S-E-X-X. I don't know how you spell it, but that's how it is spelled in Louisiana. From a standpoint of what is accessible these days compared to, say, 30 or 40 years ago. When I was a young teen, Playboy magazine was the name of the game, and you'd only see them at, I think, drugstores and maybe gas stations, I guess. Maybe it was just drugstores. They'd be behind the counter, always visible for some reason, so you'd buy them, I guess, kind of like cigarettes. As you checked out, you could see, I guess, the top quarter of whatever the name of the book was and some part of a woman on the cover. Today, you don't have to leave your chair to access a range of pornography and nudity that's at your fingertips on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, or computer. And so because it's so accessible, and we as just a species, we have a hard time self-governing ourselves. If you've ever seen any video footage of cars that came out in, around the Model A, and you'd see people driving and it didn't have like maybe streets, the lines or lights or stop signs. It was chaos. People were all over the place, kind of like in Atlanta. And so if you've ever driven through Atlanta, you understand that reference, that it is chaos on the interstate in Atlanta. Well, we need boundaries, right? We need lane dividers. We need speed limits. We need stop signs, traffic lights. It helps us not kill each other more than we're doing right now. Same thing comes to some restrictions and some boundaries on our access to information. So this is around dads, right? So this is about when you should have that talk with your child around sex, or even how they use their smart device. And we've seen parents use a phone as a babysitting technique, or a tablet. We'll be at a restaurant and the young child is nose deep into their device. And while they're playing a puzzle game, that's one thing. But all it takes is someone to expose them or accidentally run across something that is inappropriate. And once you expose that child to something like that, you cannot unring that bell. And so this is a stat here. 1 in 10 kids have seen porn at the age of 10. And most stats say that an 11-year-old has been exposed to porn on a regular basis. Now, whether that is they're seeing it on someone else's device, which is a whole different concept, but them running across something on their own device is something we're talking about today. And so there are things that you can do to help prevent that for yourself as well as for them. And one of them is Covenant Eyes, is one of our partners. You'll see on our website that they offer a software that can block or give boundaries to adult content on all your devices. And so I would highly recommend you looking into that, or some other sense of software or some practices. Maybe there are some parental guides that you need to put on your Netflix account. Maybe there are some time restrictions or some monitoring you need to do on some histories of your desktop browsers. So it's important for us to remember that the talk that maybe our parents had with us, whether there was a talk or not, happened at a certain age, that, just like anything else, has lowered, and that talk is needed at a much younger age, probably much younger than you think is appropriate, because they may be exposed to something at school in an age or a grade that you're shocked to hear that it came from possibly an old student or one of the teachers teaching something to your children very early on. So one of the things I wanted to take and share with you here was 2 different resources. One, this was an article written from Focus on the Family about talking about sex and puberty with your children. Having that conversation can be very awkward. Maybe the mom or dad may want to do that separately or together, depending on how you speak with your children. But that conversation should not be put off, because the accessibility to adult content is so prevalent that if it's a danger for us as adults, you can imagine how much more dangerous it is to a young child who does not know what they're being exposed to. Another resource I'd like to share with you is going to be a upcoming partner of Uncommon. It is the 611 network. It is around human trafficking and exposure to that industry. I know you're asking, how does that tie into a dad having a conversation with their child around sex? You'd be surprised that what they're able to be exposed to without you understanding what they're doing. So I wanted to give you those examples, or just kind of speak that to you, so that, I mean, I have the privilege of having some older sons, 22 and 20. So that conversation took place a long time ago. But even from that point till now, I think if I had a 8 or 9 or 10-year-old, that conversation needs to happen. And it depends on the maturity of your child. It depends upon your practice of how you let them use devices and expose themselves to things. So I just wanted to mention that to you, that sometimes that needs to happen a lot sooner than we're thinking. My brother Jerry out in Cali has joined us. I hope you're doing well and you are not near all those fires, brother. I have been praying for you and other Uncommon guys and families and friends that are in Cali going through that. I hope you are not near the fires, bro. Let's see, the next section that we are talking about in our Sex, Drugs, and Kanye West is drugs. Again, the topic is we're exposed, the exposure has been accelerated. I've never participated in any kind of drug consumption, whether it be even marijuana or anything up from that. And so we were watching this series, and I won't even mention its name, but it's around meth. And it's a very popular series, obviously, or I probably already know which one it is. But looking at them take drugs, or how they take drugs, is kind of eye-opening, and how invasive that is sometimes, the addiction, the accessibility, even from a child's standpoint. So they're saying now that what we're exposed to at 15 is now being shown up at a much younger age, even when it comes to drugs, that kids are exposed to drugs at around that age of 10 years old. You're seeing a trend here that they're exposed to other kids around this age at school. If that child's family is very open, or they use drugs, then that child may be more open to talk about it, introduce that topic to your child. And so both of these topics, sex and drugs, are coming at families and parents much, much sooner than we anticipated. And so here is another article around talking to your kids about drugs and alcohol. And so I think it's always good to have open communication with your kids about these things. It takes the mystery out of it, and they can make an informed decision when they're talking with someone else about this. Someone says, oh man, you should try this. They may now know the pros and cons of drugs, which is not a lot of pros to it, but that person may be pitching it as, oh man, this is super awesome, you should take this. They can then make an informed decision instead of being only motivated by peer pressure. So let's see, Jerry said he loves the shirt. This is, I know in California, like your October is probably like, you know, what this looks like, but here we're expecting like, you know, fall foliage and that kind of thing. It's like almost 80 today for Halloween. It's kind of weird. Usually Halloween's around the time of the year. It's like around 60, but it doesn't hit till tomorrow and the next day for us. I guess this is the last hurrah for summer. I don't know. It's holding on for dear life. So this is my ode to a very, very warm October 31st. Let's see. Our last piece, and I want to spend a little more time on this, is around Kanye West and only in the sense of he has released an album last week called Jesus is King, and it's catching people, people who love it, people who hate it, on and on. But I wanted to kind of spend some time talking about a part of this that I found really interesting and motivating. So the message of music, there's music out there that's, singing about life, and there's music out there that's just singing about, the trashy part of life. And then there's some singing about purpose, and that they have a great message for kids. And it's not always a gospel song. There's good songs out there, probably from the 70s and 80s, that are good songs that may not be around gospel, but they're just good messages. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, the golden years of music, I would say, with bands like Kiss, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Alice Cooper, our parents knew there was potentially bad music, or at least explicit music out there speaking, or could speak, to their children. And just like the two topics above, there's good, bad, and ugly music out there at our children's fingertips. And they can play a song with explicit lyrics at any given time on anything like Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, anything else out there that can sell music that has explicit lyrics to it. But this topic here is about what has come out with Kanye's album. So a little bit about Kanye. I mean, obviously, you may know the name, may not know the man, right? Net worth of about 240 million. I did a little research on this. Obviously been in the spotlight for a long time with his music. He's married to Kim Kardashian. Obviously, there's a name recognition for you there. Clothing line, and probably much more, probably colognes and vodkas and champagnes and everything in between that stars or celebrities move into these days from a marketing standpoint. But came to Christ this year. And what's interesting for me is it's almost like people are waiting for him to fail because they knew of his past. Now, if you want to hit pause right there, how would you feel if you were a believer and people that knew you felt the same way? Oh, I heard TJ came to Christ. Well, we'll see how that goes. Let's just see. He's probably it'll probably fade away. We'll just see how that goes. Or I heard, here's a blank, insert your name there. I heard you got saved. You came to Christ. We'll see. We'll see. I'll watch you from a distance, make some judgments on your behavior based off of what I know of you to what is now, right? And so I think that people are caught in this position of, like, Christians look at them and say, wow, we have a named person who is big in the community or big in the limelight as an advocate, good, bad, or the other. And then the other side is they're criticizing him from a point of view of maybe exploiting Christianity with music, or the song, the album wasn't great, the production of it and all that. Well, the funny thing is that this all started with me was the reviews of the album. So the album came out last Friday, called Jesus is King. I've listened to it about 30 times. I think it's a fantastic album. I've never heard, other than Jesus Walks, I think, another Kanye West song in my life. But this album, I've listened to extensively. And if I cut my teeth back in, this bald white guy cut my teeth with rap back in the day, Run DMC, LL Cool J, that mix, right? The Christian music as today, the rap today, does not entwine Christianity into its songs like Kanye has done on this album. So that is totally different. So it's a horse of a different color the Oz would say. But what I found interesting was all the reviews. So I was watching a couple of reviews, and it ranged from other people in the music industry that was either criticizing or applauding, people that were either could be gay or atheist or from a different background of whatever your background was, listening to the songs. I watched these three young men. They were looked like they were in the rap industry, and they were reviewing this album. Now, I think this is very telling that they have these videos of people that we want to review your album. We want to pass judgment on this album and let you know what we think of it, because we need to know that, right? But what I found interesting is that it's creating conversations of Christianity where none was taking place before. Now, these three young men, I say young, maybe around between maybe 17 to 20 years old. They were listening to the songs, then they would pause it either midway through, or they'd pause it between songs and discuss the song, some of the lyrics, and you can hear them in their verbiage talk about the pillars of Christianity: sin, forgiveness, love, Jesus. And then when they're playing the songs, they're singing along to the lyrics, praising God, praising Jesus in the song. And so I thought that was a side effect that has come out of Kanye's album. And, I was trying to think of something else in my childhood, or even my son's years younger, that came out that we were like, oh, that in that vein of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. What was that you were listening to that could impact you? Rarely do we have something that could impact you in a positive way like this. Now, whatever your thoughts are on what he does with this in the future, or how he got here, I think that's between him and the Lord. His conversion seems credible. And as far as my point of view of judging that, and I shouldn't, he seems like he has made a transformation, just like Paul did. Paul was actively chasing down Christians and killing them, then had his moment on the road to Damascus, right? I think Kanye has had a transformation, and we're experiencing some of that. Listen to the album, don't listen to the album, whatever you want to do. I just thought it was good to bring up from a conversation standpoint that people who were not talking about Christianity or Jesus in a way, in a great way, are now having conversations around that because of this album. It may last a week, it may last a year, I don't know, but I thought it was a great talking point. The best line in one of the songs I've heard, and it's called "We Have Everything We Need," is from one of the reviews, rather. I'm sorry. One of the reviews is it's shockingly Christian. When's the last time that you've done something, or I've done something, that's been talked about and used the words to describe it as shockingly Christian? I think it might be a wake-up call for us to talk to our children in that same way. And we can step into those conversations around sex, drugs, music, or anything else that affects our children, and the relationship between a father and their sons and daughters. So I will also leave you with avoid the pedestal. Do not put Kanye or anybody else on a pedestal where God needs to be, right? Whether he makes a great album, he writes a great book, they preach a great message, those are just instruments of God. Give glory where glory is due, and that's only for God. So do not put Kanye on any kind of pedestal. Even though you've known his past, I want you to focus on what he's saying now and pray for him, just like we should be praying for other brothers and sisters in Christ. instead of tearing them down. And so I'm going to give you the link to the full album that is on YouTube that you can listen to free of charge. It's there. Listen to, I think it's all like 12 tracks, and just experience some of that for yourself. So I hope, I know this kind of jumped around a little bit on the dad topic, but I was trying to tie it into how we communicate to our children with things that impact them at different ages than we're used to. And so whether it be sex, drugs, or music, we can have conversations with them that are timely and needed, because they're looking to us to help set some boundaries and parameters and encourage them with the good stuff, and explain and protect them from the bad stuff. And so I hope that this message or this little session has been a blessing to someone going through whatever. I'm always encouraged to see guys comment on sessions that took place. They'll watch it and then they'll comment on, last week I think was on finances of a husband and wife. So, you know, these obviously will be generic in some sense and specific in some sense. I hope that you find something beneficial out of it. If you do, please consider supporting us by joining us with our membership program for that $25 a year price tag. It is a great way for us, for you to help support this ministry. And we have big plans coming up, and there's going to be a specific fundraiser coming up for Giving Tuesday, which is on December 3rd of this year. I guess they wised up, and instead of it being so close to Christmas or to Thanksgiving, it's a little bit further away. So December 3rd is when we're doing a big fundraiser toward, I think, some specific growth in Uncommon. We are entertaining some of the topics or things that we're going to step into, whether it be an app, which is pricey. It's around that $35,000 mark. Whether it be video content, it could be almost every bit of what that costs from a time and equipment standpoint, and also some additional functionality for our member program, and just more content from Uncommon, like our originals and our devotions. So we just had one of our guys who has been a writer for us for a little bit. His name is Josh Turner, and he wrote the most recent devotional called Broken, and that is currently live on YouVersion. I would highly recommend you going to read that. It is a fantastic read. We have another gentleman who is one of our writers, and he is, we're helping him get his book off the ground. That is coming up. So we have quite a bit of exciting things happening in the near future and for 2020. And we need your help prayerfully and financially to get there. So be sure to maybe sign up for the newsletter if you're not already. That is found on uncommon.org, and follow us on social media. Obviously, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And when you do follow us there, be sure to like, comment, and share posts that resonate with you. That helps us get the message out to a wider and wider audience. So I hope your October 31st is much cooler than mine, although you won't get the chance unless you dress as Don Ho to wear a shirt like this. I hope you have a great day. I'm always praying for you. I'm always for you. And if you're going to be something, be uncommon.